Hey, what's up everybody? This is Osaberg501 and today I want to go over one of the best mining and herbalism routes I have found in Dragonflight. And also, I did not do this farm with war mode on, and the reason that's important is because you can get different nodes with war mode on. You can get the Infurious nodes, which will also give you a new rousing element and could potentially increase the amount of gold you could be making from this farm. But for this video, for the gold per hour, I'm doing it without war mode on. I also want to do another video at the same route, doing this the exact same way with war mode on, and compare the differences to actually see if having war mode on will make you more gold, or maybe would just keep it generally the same. And with the profession specializations I'm using, you can make upwards of 70,000 gold an hour doing this farm, but there is a lot of additional information we're going to have to go over in this video about the specializations and some other different bits of information that could potentially change the amount of gold you're making quite a bit. So first off, this route is going to be in the Azure span. I have a very simple route shown to you guys. You don't have to follow this completely specifically. That's why I made it very simple. And you can see in a lot of the footage that I'm not following this exact route. Sometimes there'll be notes over here, so I'll go grab those. You don't need to follow it super specific, just in the general area, and then kind of make up your route on how you want to go about doing it in this general area. And there's a handful of reasons why this farm is so good. First off being that there is a lot of forest in this area, which is primarily where Writhe Bark is going to be spawning, and Writhe Bark is still the most expensive herbalism resource in the game. All of the different qualities are still sitting right around 150 gold a piece, and you're going to be finding a lot of that in this area. And the second thing is that you can find rich soil here. And rich soil is something else for herbalism, where you can get these seeds if you're in a correct specialization, or you can buy those seeds and use those seeds on that rich soil. And rich soil spawns in areas that are directly tied to a dragonflight, and this is directly tied to one of those dragonflights, so you'll have quite a lot of rich soil spawns in this route. And I'm not going to go over all the specific stuff I got by doing this farm because there's so many different qualities of items. There's so many different items. I had this massive list to find out how much gold I can make in an hour. But that gold per hour, when I just did this yesterday, was around 70,000 gold in the hour. And I do think that was a decent run. Could have been a little bit better. I didn't get as many Titan infused nodes as I wanted, but generally still a decent run. And I haven't heard of many mining and herbalism farms in Dragonflight that's making more than that. I think these two professions just aren't making as much gold as, say, a lot of the AoE mob grinding farms. But I do think that mining and herbalism are going to get better comparatively to all the other farms as we get further into the expansion, because you'll continue to get all of this knowledge and you'll just continue to get more and more resources. You'll continue to get higher quality resources and you'll continue to get more rousing elements. And like I mentioned, one of the good things about this route is that there are a bunch of rich soil spawns here, so you can use your different seeds on them while running through and harvesting. Now, I was using only propagating seeds in this farm, and if you don't know how this works, there's a handful of different seeds that herbalism can get if they go into one of the specific specialization trees, and there's essentially different tiers to these seeds. I was using what's the most expensive seed, which are called propagating seeds, and essentially what this does is when you use these on the rich soil, it'll spawn 3 to 6 herbalism nodes. So it just randomly spews out a bunch of nodes. It can be any of the nodes in the game that aren't elemental infused. And every time you gather something from rich soil, you get whatever plant that plant would normally give, and it also gives you some random rousing elements. Now this just gives a lot of resources, but another reason this is good is because of elemental overload. If you don't know what that is, both herbalism and mining can get elemental overload, which when used on an elemental node, it'll give you resources and do something else special. Some nodes will spawn an enemy to kill, some nodes will launch you in the air and you slow fall down picking up seeds that give you resources. Some will give you buffs, and every time you gather something, that overload buff has its cooldown reduced. So for herbalism, you getting 6 nodes off of one seed can reduce that cooldown by a lot. But I'm not sure if it's actually worth to use propagating seeds, because propagating seeds right now are going for around 2,000 gold. They actually jumped up in price. I'm not exactly sure why, but the propagating seeds I was using on this farm, I bought for 1,000 gold a piece. and they're decently rare to gather from herbalism nodes. I did get a handful while doing this, but the total amount of propagating seeds I used and didn't recoup were 10, so I had to reduce the amount of gold earned from this farm by 10,000 gold. So without reducing the cost of propagating seeds is 80,000, with it it's 70,000. But with these seeds being 2,000 gold, even if they're at 1,500 gold, I would say don't buy propagating seeds to do this farm. What I would say to do instead is to buy any of the other seeds. Some of the other seeds are 50 gold, and the cheapest seeds are like 2 gold right now. And the cheapest seeds will just spawn one plant, but that plant will also still always give some random amount of rousing elements. So it's generally better than a normal plant. It's kind of like a mini elemental infused plant that you can't overload. And those seeds are only 2 gold, so you're always going to make gold on those. So at a baseline, I'd recommend using those unless the propagating seeds get much cheaper. In my last video, I went over the exact specializations I go into for mining and herbalism to make the most amount of gold, but I'll go through them quickly in this video as well because that's what I'm using in this farm. So for mining, we start out going 35 in a mining process. This gives you a bunch of additional mining stats and also gives you the ability to mine while mounted, so it doesn't knock you off your mount while mining. Then the rest of our points are in mastering the elements. You want to max this out. This gives you the overload ability, which is what we went over. You can overload an elemental node, gives you more resources, and does something else special, which help with that. So giving you random rousing essences when doing it, and just giving you more rousing essences from those nodes, then just a bunch of additional stats. Then the rest of my points I've started putting into Titan Touched. And this is going to be giving you stats specifically for Titan Touch nodes. And the reason for that is because Titan Touch nodes is primarily where you're getting Rousing Order, which turn into Awakened Order, and Awakened Order are currently going for like 3,200 gold. It's by far the most amount of gold you're going to be making from this farm and most other farms if you're finding any of these nodes. And then for herbalism, we went into botany. Now this just gives you a bunch of stats, but this also allows you to now pick flowers while mounted. So the exact same thing as mining. You can now do herbalism and mining while on your mount. Then we went into mastering the elements, same as mining. Put 40 points into this. Does the exact same thing as mining. Just some of the effects of these elemental nodes are going to be a little bit different between herbalism and mining. But we didn't keep putting more points into Titan Touched for this. Instead, we went back to botany and we were putting our points into cultivation. Now what this does is allow you to gather those seeds we've already gone over. The first one allows you to start gathering the rousing seeds, which are the super cheap ones, but like I mentioned, those are probably the best ones to be using right now. Then once you get up to this point, you can start getting the propagating seeds, which is also what I went over. And like I mentioned, these are worth 2,000 gold. If you start gathering these, you can just start selling those off for 2,000 gold a piece. And I think generally right now, that would be the better profit. Then as you keep going, you'll unlock more seeds, decayed seeds, agitated seeds. Then if you can get 40 points into this, you'll just have a higher chance to get these seeds, which will up the amount of gold you can get quite a bit. So if you have enough points to get 40 of this, you'll probably be making a lot more gold than me. I could definitely see you making 80,000 or more gold an hour if you have this maxed out. But that's pretty much everything I wanted to go over for this farm. It's pretty simple. It's just a farming route. And even if you don't have a lot of specialization points, even if you're not going into the same stuff I'm going into, this is still going to be a very good route. The two reasons I farm in this area, which is what we went over, the Writhe Bark and the rich soil, you can just go buy those cheap seeds I went over and you'll be able to get the Writhe Bark and use the rich soil. And I would absolutely recommend you have a character with mining and herbalism on the same character. You're going to make a lot more gold that way than having two different characters with those professions on separate characters. And also, I would recommend going and buying some of the Dark Moon Firewater. It's just a decently cheap potion you can get on the auction house. It increases your deftness by 15%, which is just your gathering speed for both herbalism and mining. So this will just allow you to harvest much quicker, and it lasts an hour. So the cost of this is definitely worth it. But that's pretty much everything I want to go over. So subscribe if you want to see more World of Warcraft or other MMO videos. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think about this gathering route, and thanks for watching.